Hi, I'm Vinny, and this is Wednesday Wisdom. This is a weekly show where we take time out of our busy schedules to reach out to people who might be really depressed, really stressed out, or just stuck in a rut and need extra motivation. Now, before we go any further, I want to give you guys an opportunity to hit the subscribe button and ring that bell to be notified so you never miss another episode of Wednesday Wisdom as well as other additional HVMA content. And my motivation for this week, my words of wisdom that I'll bestow upon you is simple. Set boundaries in the beginning. Now, this applies not only to business relationships, but personal relationships as well. Because you see, a lot of us out there, myself included, try to be nice to people. You know, you're taught treat others the way you want to be treated, being kind is a virtue, and going above and beyond the call of duty at your job is a great way to get on your boss's good side. Now, to an extent, these are all true. However, sometimes being too nice and too hardworking can become a problem when you start getting taken advantage of by the people you're being nice to or the boss that you're working for. Now, next thing you know, these people are asking you for more favors, which will lead to another favor, which will lead to another, and 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 another. And before you know it, you're angry, you're stressed out, you're burned out, and you go from being friendly and approachable to bitter and antisocial. And if you need proof that that can happen, well, look no further than the guy talking to you right now in this video. Because everything that I'm telling you can happen has happened to me in the past. In fact, it's why I have another show that takes place at a certain time, if you know what I mean. And of course, for those of you who don't know what I mean, I'm referring to Complain Time, which is also here on the HVMA YouTube channel. You can check it out over there. So if you ever want to hear me rant and rave, that's the best place to go. Side note. Anyway, now the problem with reaching this breaking point is that eventually you're going to end up setting boundaries with the very people that have been taking advantage of you for so long. Now, when this happens, you're going to find out whether or not these people actually care about you. This is your test. Because if your friends or your boss genuinely cares about you and values you as a friend or employee, they will be okay with the boundaries that you set. Now, obviously, you have to be reasonable with the boundaries you set. But once you set them, your life will be much easier to manage because you won't be biting off more than you can chew. Now, if you try to set boundaries and the friend or boss has a problem with them, like they're constantly arguing with you or being disrespectful or whatever, dump that friend or quit that job. Now, if you can't quit that job right away for money reasons, then start looking for another job while you endure the BS, and then once you find it, leave. And that's why I'm saying it's important to set boundaries in the beginning. This way, you don't have to worry about being taken advantage of or worked to death. It will improve your physical health, and most importantly, it will improve your mental health. Now, the best way to do this is by following these 4 steps. Step 1, know your limits. Clearly define what your intellectual, emotional, physical, and spiritual boundaries are with strangers, work colleagues, friends, family, and intimate partners. Examine past experiences where you felt discomfort, anger, resentment, or frustration with an individual. It may have been because your limits have been crossed. Create a boundary chart which outlines each boundary per each relationship category and fill it in with the boundary criteria you feel comfortable and safe with, and vice versa. You know, like for example, if you don't feel comfortable when a work colleague asks about your childhood or your childhood illness or your dating life, or if your parents got through a divorce, if that's not a subject you want to talk about, tell people. Be like, hey, I don't really want to talk about it. And, you know, they'll be respectful. They'll kind of back off if they care about you. And then if they keep pressing you, that's when you got to be like, hey, I'm serious, back off. You know, stuff like that. Step number two, the important thing here, be assertive. Creating and stating boundaries is great, but it's the follow-through that counts. The only way to truly alert others that your boundaries have been crossed is to be direct with them. Being assertive, particularly if you are unaccustomed to doing so, can be scary. So start small with something manageable and build your assertive skill to larger tasks like these. For example, if an unwanted romantic suitor is messaging you, explain that you are not interested and would appreciate if he or she stops. If a distant cousin is intruding on your dating life, say you'd rather talk about something else. If a work colleague is pushing his or her work onto you, remind them that it isn't within your scope. You are busy with your own work, and direct them to someone who will be of better service. Or did a friend do something to hurt you? Ask them to meet you for lunch and explain why their words or actions hurt you. So the key thing is, when I say be assertive, I don't mean be rude. I mean just speak your piece, but do it in a friendly and professional manner, depending on whether you're talking to a friend or a boss. You have a right to say if something's bothering you. You have a right to talk to people if there's a problem, but you have to present it in a way that is still respectful. So be assertive, but still be respectful, because sometimes the friend or boss that is bothering you or hurting you or crossing the line doesn't know they did. He or she did. They have no idea that they did. Some do, some don't. The ones who don't, they're going to be confused when you're just yelling at them. So you got to really explain to them what they did and why it bothered you and everything else. And like I said, if they care about you, they'll tell you, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't know that was a touchy subject for you. I didn't know I was crossing a line. I won't do that again. And you can move on. Now, step number 3, practice makes perfect. When you start acting aggressively, if it is a departure from your habitual state, you may be afraid that others will perceive you as mean or rude, as I was mentioning before. But affirming your boundaries means that you value yourself, your needs, and your feelings more than the thoughts and opinions of others. Being assertive does not mean that you are unkind. It only means that you are being fair and honest with them, and thus kind to them in the long run, while maintaining your peace, dignity, and self-respect. And finally, step number 4. If all else fails, delete and ignore. Voice your boundaries first, then follow with action. As long as you have tied up loose ends and given family members, friends, ex-partners, or bosses, or whoever it may be, closure from any promises you may have made, you no longer owe them anything. If you have asserted yourself and made it clear to another person that he or she is not respecting your boundaries, it is okay to ignore correspondence from that point forward if they're not respecting it. Remind yourself of your own worth and that no one has the right to make you feel uncomfortable or take your self-defined space away from you. By following these 4 steps, you will be able to set boundaries for yourself that will make you a better person overall. Because the most important person you need to take care of is yourself. Unless you have little kids, then obviously you have to take care of them first, but that's another story. But for the rest of us, taking care of yourself should be your number 1 priority. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you won't be at your best, which means you won't be able to help anybody no matter how badly you may want to. And remember, the people in your life who truly care about you will respect your boundaries. And that, ladies and gentlemen, will wrap up Wednesday Wisdom for this week. I thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button and ring that bell to be notified so you never miss another episode of Wednesday Wisdom, as well as other additional HVMA content. Check back soon for a new episode. And until then, stay social.